We've talked on the YouTube channel a number of times about Borderlands, guys, in this franchise. What I will say is that I really enjoyed the first two games within this franchise. Obviously, you had the prequel as well that came out. And what I will say is this, is that I believe that the first two were great, and I think that Borderlands 3, guys, if we're talking about the main narrative here, I think it was a step in the wrong direction, even though they did things a little bit differently in Borderlands 3. They've kind of like added so much more in certain areas, but then they kind of have taken, I guess, by adding so much some new things in different areas, it took away from some of the other things that made the other two games really special, at least in my eyes. And so what I wanted to go ahead and do, guys, is give you guys my top 5 things that I want in Borderlands 4. And I think it's really important, guys, that, you know, with Borderlands 4, it's probably a number of years off. I think that Borderlands 3 still has, you know, legs to kind of do some things and kind of evolve and change and hopefully, you know, build upon some of the mistakes that they made in Borderlands 3. But with that, guys, I wanted to go ahead, go over these top 5 things. And look, I want to hear your guys' top 5 things that you guys want as well in Borderlands 4. And I think some of the things that I'm going to bring up, you may agree with, you may disagree with, but let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. So coming in at number 1, guys, the first thing that I want in Borderlands 4, and some of you may be surprised about this, but for me, I would like to see a soft reboot or a completely different story within the Borderlands universe. And look, I feel like they did this trilogy almost, this Borderlands trilogy of the 3, you know, narratives here, of that main narrative. And I'm not saying that it wasn't good. I'm not saying it like it's a classic. It really is. But I just think that what they need to do is moving into the next generation of consoles and kind of moving, you know, in a new direction here might be a good move for them. I feel like personally, guys, that Borderlands is a really big universe, and I don't know all of the lore and all of the story of Borderlands, but what I can say is it seems like it's a pretty, you know, diverse and a really like interesting world outside of what we've seen in the first number of games here. And so with that, I would like to see a different story altogether. Like, you know, having similar characters at different points throughout the story or having similar enemies and environments and things of that nature, that would be fine. But I just kind of want it to be something, I want it to be new. I want to explore a different side of Borderlands or a different part of this universe because I think it's just so vast and huge, and I just really want to explore it for myself. And I think that, you know, they did the things that they did in the first, you know, few Borderlands games here, and I just think now either do a soft reboot where it's kind of like not necessarily a side story, but, you know, whether you want to do a soft reboot or you just want to do a completely different story altogether that's within the same universe, I would be totally up for. That leads me to number 2, guys, which is having more things to do along the journey. And when I say that, guys, is there were times in Borderlands 3 where I felt like along the journey, along the story, the campaign that is what we're talking about here, it just felt like there were times where there wasn't a lot of things to do along that journey, right? I think, you know, when you're talking about side missions, when you're talking about, you know, just other things that you can do, other customization, you know, ways of, you know, customizing your characters and just being able to just do things along the way between point A and point B, or, you know, because a lot of times there was just a lot of the environments and such were just kind of like dull. There just wasn't a lot there. And that might just be me, guys. Some of you may agree with me on that, but there were just things with Borderlands 3 that just I didn't like as much compared to the first 2 games, even though it seems like they added more in different areas, which we'll get to here shortly. I just would like there to be more things to do so that it keeps me coming back to the story over and over again, even after I beat the game, you know, coming back through, playing it, you know, a second time around, whether it be on a harder difficulty or I'm going after all the collectibles or I'm going to try to do all the side missions and things of that nature. you know, I would just want there to be a lot of things to do along the way where it's not like stale along the journey, where it doesn't get kind of repetitive or just kind of, you know, slow for me. I think that's kind of important for moving into Borderlands 4. That leads me to number 3, guys, which Borderlands 3 did do this, having multiplayer. They also, you know, adding like, you know, multiplayer is a big ordeal. It's a big deal, guys, but I would like to see an expansion upon that. Here's what I'm getting at, though. I'd love to see multiplayer and co-op come into Borderlands 4, but some of you may agree with this, some of you may disagree. I believe that Borderlands as a franchise is primed for Battle Royale. And so hear me out here, guys. You know, when we look at the BR space, look at all these different companies out there that are making these AAA titles, or they're making, you know, a BR based upon a AAA studio. And Battle Royale is doing incredibly well at this point. And for big companies doing it, guys, making it free to play, it's getting people to come back to some of these franchises. It's getting people to check out new franchises out there. So I'll give you an example. The Call of Duty franchise as a whole has had peaks and valleys, similar to Borderlands, similar to any other franchise out there. Any big franchise, there's going to be peaks and valleys. What happened, though, with Call of Duty was, guys, they went through a stretch of 3 games, that being Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, and Infinite Warfare, which they had jetpacks. They completely changed things about the Call of Duty franchise, and it actually really tore the community apart. Well, when they added Battle Royale years later, they were slowly getting some of those people back to try Call of Duty again. But when they added Warzone, especially because it was free to play, lots of people who used to be a part of the community came back to try it, and so many of them are now playing it at this point. So what I'm getting at here is Borderlands 3, in my opinion, was the slip up for Gearbox when it came to this franchise. And I believe that Gearbox, as well as 2K Games, they come together, make a BR based around Borderlands, and I think they can make something really special here with, of course, the feel, all of the different, you know, just the way the graphics are and such. And I think that people who left the franchise because of Borderlands 3, or even earlier than that, they may at least give it a try, especially if it's a free-to-play Battle Royale game. And so that's something I think is really important, just to kind of think about in the back of your head. You know, some people have a bad taste in their mouth when they talk about Battle Royale. But look, at the end of the day, guys, BR, the one thing that it's done for our industry in a major way, because I love Battle Royale, but at the same time, I'm not very good at it. And so obviously when you're not good at something, you want to get better at it. But, you know, it's one of those things that I believe BR has done so much for gaming, because it's actually really put a spotlight on free-to-play games, that you can make this AAA title free to play for everyone, and it still sells really well based upon customization, you know, all the microtransactions and things of that nature. So what I'm getting at is Borderlands 4 could absolutely do this moving into the next game, and I think that BR would be great for Borderlands. So I think adding that to the multiplayer experience would be awesome. Coming in at number 4 for me, guys, is I really want to see, and this kind of gets us back to like the very beginning of this, back to number 1, where we're kind of would like to take a new take, or kind of a new story set in the same universe. Take some risks. That's the big thing I want to like reach out, you know, to Gearbox here, is take some risks. Like, I'm not saying that they haven't taken risks in you know, Borderlands 3 or the other games, but take some more risks. Like when you do this next addition to the franchise, I think it's important that especially if you're going to do a different story, change some things up, take some risks, surprise us, have things that, you know, there's cliffhangers, and, you know, there's going to be peaks and valleys throughout the course of the story as well, which of course pretty much with any story there is. But I'm just saying that I would like to see them take more risks in Borderlands 4, and that's really important to me. And that kind of leads me to number 5, guys, which is continue the customization, which we've seen obviously with you know, all the different gun variants and you know, this looter shooter. That's one of the ways that Borderlands 3 has kind of continued pushing this series forward, was just by all the thousands of different variants and guns and things of that nature that you're able to come in contact with throughout the course of the journey. But I think the problem with that was it was at the cost of the story. And so, in my opinion, go back to what made Borderlands great. Do story over customization. I think that it's great having ways to customizing and things of that nature, especially for like multiplayer experiences. But when we're talking about the story, it's awesome having a bunch of different, weapons that you can in gun variants and such. But I think it's really important that you have a great story, something solid, even if it's new. And that's why I said a different story altogether would be great for Borderlands 4. But I just think that now you have a foundation of like great customization. Now, I think it's really important that the story needs to take precedent over that of customization. So with that, guys, I think that really kind of rounds out what I'm looking for as far as the top 5 things that I want. And we could go on and on. The list could go on and on for things that we want in Borderlands 4. And look, guys, by no stretch of the imagination am I saying that Borderlands 3 was a terrible game. I'm just saying I didn't like it quite as much as the originals. And I'm one of those guys who wants to see the success of the Borderlands franchise. So moving forward, these are ways that they can maybe change things that some of us may really enjoy. But with that, guys, let me know in the comment section below, what are your top 5 things that you want to see in Borderlands 4? Let me know down there, guys. And for more Borderlands 4 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.